Faaiza Lalji is Director of Planning and Development at Precis Advisory, a London-based property company with a really interesting portfolio of hotels, self-storage sites and residential development. The company is now investing in data and life science projects, the first of which is about to start on site in King's Cross. So Faaiza, can you tell me a little bit more about the company and its history?
The company's been around for about 20-25 years here in the UK and is primarily London focused. It's a family-run, multi-generational company. We own and operate assets for the long term. So really we very rarely, I think one or two occasions where we sell, but we invest in London, we invest in London's boroughs, and London's community really of residents and businesses. Just to add to that, I would say primarily our businesses have been in hospitality and self-storage. So our hotels, we have 3 brands which we own and operate, primarily in central London, about 20 or so hotels. And then on the self-storage side, we own and operate Access Self-Storage, 2/3 of which, the sites of which are in London and the balance of which is outside of London. And those sites, many of them now also have ancillary office and spaces for local businesses attached to those self-storage facilities.
So Belgrove House at King's Cross, which has been designed by AHMM, it's proposed as a new sort of specialised office and laboratory building for the life sciences sector. So what stage is that at, and what does that involve?
Yeah, so I should have sort of segued by saying that our existing businesses, hotel and self-storage, we also have a development business and pipeline and interest in really kind of evolving and growing some of our existing sites where appropriate into homes and workspace. So Belgrove House is one of those sites. It's in King's Cross, as you say, across from King's Cross and St. Pancras stations, on the south side of the Euston Road. So not what most people would know as King's Cross and kind of Argent redevelopment today, which is in the backlands of King's Cross. But actually, the south side of the Euston Road is really kind of the front door, or was initially designed as the front door of King's Cross. So we have an existing Access self-storage facility there. It's about a 3-story building. It's obviously a fantastic location for us because of the visibility and because of the connectivity, but it's obviously also underutilized as well. King's Cross has changed a lot over the years. You know, many people know it as having emerged as the knowledge quarter with these life science and data science businesses, as you know. And so really we've spent a number of years trying to figure out what would be appropriate to bring to King's Cross and to bring to this kind of new energy as well as community of both businesses and local people. So the proposal is designed to be a life sciences headquarters as well as research facility for MSD, which is a global life sciences company looking at diseases and vaccines of kind of, you know, world and global significance. The building itself and the proposal is quite kind of simple. When you look at it, it consists of HQ offices at the upper floors, a collaboration floor kind of at the middle floor, and then the lower floors are life science lab floors. And the ground floor really is the space where there are opportunities for public interface, both the kind of wider public and the local kind of public, so to speak. So Camden, Bloomsbury, more specifically Argyle Square, and schools and young people in Camden. So those spaces on the ground floor consist of, at the front, a TfL entrance, as well as exhibition spaces, so people can see the work that's happening in the building. And then at the back, an education and outreach center that has a classroom, as well as meeting space and exhibition and other space really for businesses and people to meet in the building.
So the self-storage business means you've got sites distributed around outer London. So how do you see them developing in the future in the light of the growing demand for housing and perhaps a greater focus on local areas in outer London post-COVID?
Yeah, to be honest, we've been quite lucky or foresighted, however which way you want to look at it. I think you know, for us, the kind of needs and the world, even though it's you know, obviously COVID has been a massive event in the world and has had a huge impact on the built environment and industry and people's lives. I think what we've been doing to look at our sites in outer London and to repurpose them as mixed use places for people to live, to work, and to store is really a model that we feel is quite sustainable and resilient and appropriate to what people need today. Really, what we've seen over the last year and a half is that you know, people are spending so much time in their homes. And what that means is that they need the flexibility to be able to grow or shrink their spaces and move in situ. They need places to work that are not their apartments. They need spaces to go outside that are not just a balcony or terrace or winter garden. And they need spaces to put extra stuff so they have more room to accommodate themselves and their families. And so this is what we've been working on for a number of years already, places that incorporate all of these different elements and that really focus on the whole life of a person and what are the functional needs that that person needs, other than just a kind of flat in London to be able to access the city and to be able to access a place to live.
So you've got developments and properties in central London and outer London, and from your point of view as a company, what are the most critical issues facing London now as we get the city's economy back on its feet and start getting people back into the centre, hopefully?
I think, I mean, this has always been a kind of, you know, classic challenge of our industry is our ability to be able to respond to big change and to be able to move at speed. I think, you know, we found that development and planning in London takes time. It takes patience, and there's a kind of there's a long gap between concept and actual use of place, and you know, seeing the kind of benefit of what you're trying to do. So I think, you know, for our particular case, that continues to be a challenge. We want, you know, we're raring to go. We want to bring these places to life as soon as possible, really, because we think they're an appropriate response and a much needed response, but it's hard to do so in a kind of timely way. So I think just very simply that's one. And I think also, you know, having worked with these kind of small business SMEs and startups and local businesses in the context of our self-storage portfolio, we see the challenges for those businesses and the kind of, you know, inability to cope with this particular climate. But then we also see challenges with large businesses at completely different scale. And so whether you have 2 employees or 1,000 employees, as is the case with MSD in our life sciences building in King's Cross, at every level, and our own organization, right, where we have 500 employees at every level, all these businesses are facing challenges. And then as a result, you know, employees are also facing challenges. And so I think it will take a while to kind of readjust and for things to rebalance and to find a kind of new normal, so to speak. So I think those are a couple of immediate things. And then there are larger kind of issues, again, that our industry and projects try to address like the climate emergency, as is the case with our design of Belgrove House, which is intended to really be an exemplar of how to reduce carbon at every stage of a project, and how to take a whole life carbon approach, and really create something that is innovative and a showcase for a biophilic facade and well-being and occupant well-being in the kind of office space. I think, you know, those issues and those challenges continue to be so important, but it's very easy to kind of put those aside and forget about them when there's an immediate day-to-day need, which is of course understandable. So I think it's, you know, another thing to keep in mind will be really also staying focused on these longer term problems that, if we choose to ignore, will be catastrophic.
Well, certainly you've got a nice broad portfolio, which shows a certain resilience, I think, for the future. So thank you very much, Faaiza, for your insights into Precis and what you're doing.
Thanks very much for having me, Peter. Appreciate it.